I want you to know I made many trips to Unity Village, and every day, weekday at Wednesday, Charles Fillmore would sing the Lord's Prayer. They blast it throughout Unity Village, say the Lord's Prayer, and bless the Unity Village property. So it's near and dear to our hearts. Thank you so much. So now is our time for meditation. So I invite you to get things out of your lap. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, and we're just going to center ourselves in with some deep breathing, breathing in and breathing out, letting go of any rushing around this morning. Feel your shoulders relaxing off of your earlobes as you just allow the chair to support your body. We let that breath of God breathe us into this quiet space. Feeling our hearts expanding with every breath we take. This morning I'm going to invite you to think of a time, perhaps recently, where you might have said or done something that you feel may have been mistaken or misunderstood, and you perhaps wish it had been a better interaction and had had a little bit different outcome. So I invite you now to think of that time and to shower yourself with these words. May I be kind. May I be loving. May I be happy. In order for us to feel compassion for others, we must first and foremost feel compassion for ourselves. So we take those words in to the core of our beingness, and we feel ourselves, knowing that we are kind, we are loving, and we are happy. So we can forgive ourselves, be good to ourselves. And now I invite you to think of a person or a situation that you feel like you were not treated as you wished you had. I invite you to picture that person or situation in your mind and shower these words. May you be kind. May you be loving. May you be happy. Feel that in the core of your heart space as we sit and feel that together in the silence. It is our true nature to know the joy, to know peace, to experience love, and to show up in the world as kindness. It is in this fashion that we show up as the compassionate beings that we signed up for in this incarnation. We can do this. The universe has our back. We just need to live it, to believe it is ours to do, to know that this is part of our inheritance. We are first and foremost spiritual beings. And what we say, what we feel, what we believe, what we speak impacts everybody around us. And so this day we choose. We choose to be kind. We choose to be loving. And we choose to be happy. And now we begin to bring our focus back into the room, knowing that we've set our intention for this week, for how we're going to be, who we're going to show up as, and how much easier things are going to be because we've made that choice. So we say thank you, indwelling Spirit, for this sweet time of remembrance. We're so grateful, and so it is, and so we allow it to be. Whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. Compassion changes the world. Yesterday afternoon, at the corner of 776 and Dearborn Street, there was a peace pole that was dedicated. It was in honor of Jean Rinaldo, I think is her name. I was hoping Sushila would be here because she's Sushila's friend. Jean made her transition recently at the age of 79, but she stood at that corner promoting peace almost every weekend for years. There's Sushila. Is it Rinaldo? Is it Rinaldo? Rinaldo. So she stood there and made an impact in the world because she was a pacifist and she believed in peace. And that was her part, was standing there and reminding everybody about peace. And so when she made her transition, there were so many people that were impacted by it that they all chose to take her place and stand there where she used to stand and hold the sign for peace. And Sushila did it for some Sundays herself. 23 years she did that. And so there's this like gaping hole, you know, where she's not there anymore. So some people got together and raised the money and bought this beautiful peace pole in many languages. And it was dedicated yesterday at 4:30. So Jean left a legacy that is living on now with this peace pole. And so I invite you to, and there's also a time capsule there that was placed. I invite you to see pictures of her. If you go on Facebook and just look up Peace Lady, there's a beautiful video there and pictures of her, because her commitment, her dedication at that corner made a difference in the world because she had passion for peace. And we are so very grateful We're so very grateful that she did that. We have a theme, and this is our last Sunday that we're talking about family. And today we're sort of talking about universal family, and we're also talking about our unity family. But we have an affirmation that we've been saying every single week, and let's say it together. I am grateful for my family, both of my birth and of my heart. We're tributing the Fillmores because Myrtle's birthday was in the beginning of August and Charles's was at the end of August. It's funny how many good people were born in August. My birthday was Friday. Kelly's birthday was yesterday. Carolyn's is tomorrow. And there's been a whole host of you that had birthdays this month. Honor, yes. Carmen, you were at the beginning of the month. Yeah. And Kathy Schwanke on Zoom. Kathy.
President Obama.
And President Obama. Okay, we're not going there. So anyway, we wanted to do just something a little bit special for the Fillmores, and we know that some of you really like the old hymns. We don't really do the old hymns much anymore, but we just wanted to kind of bring back some of the things that the Fillmores used to do. So I'm grateful to Ken for being able to play along with that. I wanted to give you just a little bit of history. In 1888, the ministry that became Unity began in the living room of the Fillmores' house in Kansas City, Missouri. And then it officially began in 1889 with the first publication, the first issue of the Modern Thought magazine. You know, the Fillmores never intended to develop a church. They really weren't interested in that. They were interested in everybody getting to know the God of their being, for everybody having their own relationship and deepening their own relationship. They never envisioned what would come into this worldwide movement from the prayer work, but they were getting people together and they were praying together and they were healing. People were healing. Things were happening in their lives. In 1902, Charles formed a building committee. Initially as a joke, one of the members of that original group said he'd put a penny in, start that fund. So they started with a penny, 1902. Well, by the end of 1903, there was 25 cents in the fund. By 1905, they had $601, and then people were starting to get excited. So a couple of the board members each pledged $100 apiece. So it kind of went up. And then one of the board members mortgaged their personal home so they could buy the property at 913 Tracy. Now, if you've ever gone to Kansas City, you have to go to 913 Tracy because that building that they originally bought is magnificent, and there's so much history. It's almost like you can feel the Fillmores in there because the platform and everything is like it was when they were there. So it's an amazing property. In 1903, they incorporated Unity, get this, as a society for scientific and educational purposes. Do you hear church in there? Do you hear religion in there? No. Their focus was prayer. Their focus was prayer and more of a sharing of a search, a digging below religious, superficial surfaces. They were interested in the metaphysical understanding of the Bible. Unity kept growing and moving and growing and moving for years. They couldn't hardly keep up with the growth. In 1919, the first of the 58 acres would become Unity Village were purchased. Today, this entire amazing property is 1,200 acres. Started as Unity Farm and then incorporated into Unity Village. The grounds are sacred and the energy there. I know some of you went on our pilgrimage and some of you have been there and some of you do Nehemiah. I think Renee's done Nehemiah and Richard and Mary do Nehemiah. That is an annual, or now I think it's 2 or 3 times a year, where they let people come and they give them free room and board if they work on the property, work on the grounds, work in the buildings, work in the archives. And so we have a little contingent of people that like to do that. And it gives them an opportunity to really be on the grounds and feel the amazing energy that is there. It's like magic. When I first got there, I came home and I told my husband, if they just let me weed the garden, I'd live there for free. I would just weed the garden. I just want to be on the property. I want to be in the energy. So the Fillmores never intended to start a religion, but what they did was they created these principles and these ideas that are a way to live your life. It is a lifestyle choice that you can make to have this spiritual path. In the Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore differentiates between human and divine compassion. I thought that that was fascinating. He says, human compassion is a characteristic of love and mercy prompted by an understanding heart. A compassionate mind sees the error but does not condemn. That's the compassionate human, right? And of divine compassion, he says, in the heart of God exists an eternal tenderness and mercy for his children. And then he goes and he quotes Psalms that says, Psalms 145, Jehovah is gracious and merciful. Well, we know God has no physical heart. God is not some anthropomorphic person in the sky, right? We know this to be the truth. But what I love about this is that we are always talking about how we are 100% human and 100% divine, right? And so how interesting that Fillmore has two separate ways to look at compassion. So when I read about his definitions, I want to claim both aspects, don't you? I want to claim both ways of compassion. I want to have that tender, loving, open heart, right? I believe that we have this understanding heart at the core of us because of our Christ, the Christ within us, our I am. There is a place where that eternal tenderness lives and that mercy that we have for our fellow human beings on this planet, if we choose to accept it. So today, as we said, we interpret the Bible metaphysically. And so today we're in Colossians. We're in chapter 3, verse 12. You know this one. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. I love that idea of clothing myself. It's like I get this visual. I'm putting on this overcoat, you know. I'm going to wear my compassion. I'm going to wear my mercy. I love that. I can literally get this picture like I'm putting it on and wearing it so that I'm physically in tune with the fact that how am I showing up in this moment? We are God's chosen ones because we're all expressions of God. We came into this incarnation as an expression because God is spirit. God's not a man on a cloud somewhere. And so God needs us to show up and be the hands, the eyes, the ears, the mouth. We are expressions. That's how we show up. And so I love this idea that we're clothing ourselves with compassion to be the loving, kind people that our planet needs. We know this, right? More than any time, probably. So metaphysically, what Fillmore's talking about as we express what is Christ-like in our life, the Christ is manifested in us. That is the I am of us. When the Bible talks about the Lord, it's talking about the Lord of your being, the I am of you. It is the eternal tenderness that you were born with. Yesterday in the prayer training, we were talking a little bit about, some people come and visit, stay for a bit, and then we don't see them again. And we had this conversation about, what is what is that all about? And I said, well, you know, somebody said, was it you, Manuela? This isn't necessarily easy to live this. We're not just a bunch of Pollyannas going around saying just be positive thinkers. We're talking about living a life of compassion. We're talking about living the teachings that we talk about. We're talking about moment by moment, thought by thought, paying attention to how we show up. And it's not like you just go to church on Sunday and then you go out and be bad for a week and then you come back and you're forgiven, right? What we know in Unity and New Thought is that we're living it by how we choose to show up. If we're living these teachings and these principles, we're living a Christ-like life, right? We're showing up as Jesus taught us to show, to be kind and loving to everyone. So not everybody wants to do the work. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy because it means we pay attention to what we think, what we say, what we feel, what we believe. We tune in, tap into spirit. We want to be in alignment. We want to make good decisions and good choices in our lives because we want to listen to what Spirit has for us every day, every moment. So it's work. It is work. It's definitely work. So Jesus is probably one of our greatest examples. How did Jesus show perfect compassion? Well, if you think about the stories in the Bible, I go to when he's washing the feet of the disciples. You know, Jesus showed perfect compassion through service. Many of you that are saying yes to Spirit and showing up and volunteering in this church are saying yes to Spirit. You're sharing your compassion with your fellow brothers and sisters. Service is how we demonstrate compassion. And then I think about when he's at the grave of Lazarus and all the people are weeping because Lazarus has died, right? And Jesus begins to weep with them out of the compassion from his heart. So who is your model of compassion? Who do you think about when you think about compassion? Do you think about Nelson Mandela? Do you think about Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi? I mean, there are many examples of people who show up to teach us how to be more compassionate. Well, I ran across this article, and it's by a Unity minister. Her name is Rev. Deanne Morency. And she was writing an article about something that she learned as a teenager. And she said she had a job as a teenager in an extremely busy neighborhood supermarket. And it was one of those kind of supermarkets where there was always a line of people, always a line. And she wanted to be the model employee. So she was working as fast and as efficiently as she could, getting those people through that line, trying to get that line down. And she kind of stressed herself out about it. I mean, you know, she would go home exhausted from taking all those people's groceries and bagging them and sending them on their way and getting to the next one and getting to the next one. It's like over and over and over again. Finally, one day, her manager pulled her aside. And she said, you know, Deanne, it's really not about the line. And she said, but the line! She said, you don't really have to go that fast. You don't really have to get all the groceries through. And she said, but isn't that what we're supposed to do? And she said, no, it's about what people are experiencing in the line. Ding! Game changer. She'd never considered that her efficiency and the way she was trying to get it done and get the line down and all that was stressing out everybody that was standing in her line. They were seeing her stressed and they were feeling her energy, right? So she changed it. She shifted her perception and she began to greet people and say hello and ask them about their day as she checked them out, as she did her cashier work. And you know what? It changed it. Everything. She started to like her job. She got home and she wasn't even tired She was looking forward to meeting more people the next day. At first, it was kind of tough, looking people in the eye and having that eye contact. But it changed her life. She realized as an adult now, when she looked back on that her manager was teaching her about present moment awareness, right? Being the gift to somebody by just being present for them in this moment, giving them undivided attention like they were all that mattered in the world, right? You know how you feel when somebody does that for you. So I think this is a call to action. I think this is an invitation for all of us. Is your life that is something that you're just trying to get through? Is it like drudgery to you? Do you dread getting up and going to work? Or do you dread? That's not how life is supposed to be at all. You're supposed to be kind, loving, and happy, right? You're supposed to love your life. If you're so focused on what you're supposed to be doing, then you're missing the opportunity to be present right here and now for everyone that comes into your energy field, right? It's a good chance for reflection to ask yourself these questions. Just last year, Grant Powers did a wonderful, extensive research and study of this wonderful book that Gary Zukav wrote about the universal human. It is about the unprecedented transformation in human consciousness that is happening in this planet, whether we're aware of it or not. We are all growing in consciousness as a planet. And I love this, that there's a chapter on compassion in this book. And I want to read you what Gary says. He says, when we experience frightened parts of our personality through painful physical sensations in our energy processing centers, or critical, judgmental, unforgiving thoughts, that we are experiencing parts of ourselves that have no compassion. We all have days where we have those experiences, don't we? He says emotional awareness is the key. We can learn to cultivate the loving parts of us and challenge those frightened ones and eventually move ourselves toward compassion. It's nice that we can move in that direction, right? He goes on to say that compassion can't be created just by wishing for it, wanting it, or desiring it. We have to find and eliminate within ourselves what prevents us from experiencing love in any moment. What shuts us down? What makes us less loving? Those are the things we need to eliminate. He says creating authentic power from being that loving self is what creates traction in our lives. We all want a little traction in the right direction, don't we? With each responsible choice to act with love, he says, to respond instead of react. Like when somebody says something to you, you kind of want to go, take a breath, take a breath. Oh, this person probably had a bad day. You come at it completely with a different energy. So with each responsible choice to act with love and to respond instead of react, experiences of compassion begin to come into being within us. It's totally doable. So what are we focusing on? We shift our focus to being present in every moment that we can. Like I said, simple, but it's not easy. We perform small acts of kindness. Don't you love that bumper sticker? Perform random acts of kindness. It's like my favorite bumper sticker in the whole world. Because when you do that, a genuine smile to someone, a moment where you connect and really see someone, they feel it in their soul when you do that. When you share a laugh, you share a good joke. When you breathe together and become centered. It's another time. When you just lend a helping hand. Give somebody your grocery cart, when you see they're getting ready to go and you're already done with yours, hand them that. This is what makes life worth living, you see, is looking for the opportunities to be kind, looking for the opportunities to connect with other people. It's not just about giving, but it's also, we have to be able to receive. You can't just be giving. You'll be an empty cup with nothing to give. So you have to receive as well. This is what nourishes our soul. So much of our suffering is caused because we feel separate from God. There is no separation ever. In any moment, we are never separated from the love of God. We are the love of God. That's principle one, isn't it? God is in all things, always. And we still feel alone sometimes. We feel like we're going at it by ourselves. And that is what causes our suffering. Every day there are opportunities for you to allow yourselves to be seen in the way that you know you are, that Christed being that you are, and to allow people to touch your heart. Be vulnerable. It's okay. What happens? Maybe you shed a tear. We shed a lot of tears yesterday, didn't we? Just by being present with each other in the prayer training, we shed tears. Make a conscious decision to open your heart and give acts of love. Because you will be restored and you will be renewed. Maybe you start by sharing a smile with the cashier in your grocery store. The Walmart people will appreciate it, right? You never know the power that your word, your smile, your act, you never know how that can impact the world. Okay, enough preaching. Time for a joke. So, this minister is in front of his folks and he says, nature is a gift of God, and every single blade of grass is a sermon. So the next day, one of his congregants happens to pass by his house while the pastor's out there mowing his lawn. So he stops and he watches for a bit. And he said, "Good job, Pastor. Keep that grass short." Keep them short. Okay, so it wasn't that funny. Maybe I didn't read it right. Way to go, Pastor. Cut him short. Cut him short. Keep that grass. Keep those sermons short. Okay, so we're ending today with, because it's Tribute Sunday, Myrtle Fillmore. These are her sweet, sweet words. You'll get a feel for it just by listening to how she talked. "You see, dear, we just feel rather modest. Really, we haven't much to say as to when the work has started and how it was done. We just received from the Father some ideas that proved wonderfully helpful in our own family, and then we shared them with others, and they too were helped. Since those of like faith are drawn together, we soon found ourselves in a little society, which was formed for the study of truth and the practice of its ideas. We grew. After a time, it seemed that the other folks went their various ways, and only we were left to continue what we felt would be important enough to develop and to devote ourselves to. And Unity School unfolded and continued to grow. We have never cared to interest folks in our own individual lives. It makes no real difference to others what we have done or who we are. What is important is that we are doing what the Father has given us to do according to our best light. And if we have something that others want or that will help them, spiritual ideas and their radiance, we are glad to share it. If others wish to receive, all right. If not, because of what they may term our personal limitations, that's all right too. We are not trying to interest folks in the school, but in the ideas of the Christ mind, which we feel to be the foundation of our work, and the standard of our life. And that's the way it truly is. Thank you so much. This is a sweet little book, Unity and His or Her Story by Trish Yancey. She is the spiritual leader at Sebring, and we are becoming fast friends. So this is the time in our service when we get to share from our bounty into this ministry. And if you're online, if you do the PayPal or you use the Breeze link, or those of you that are already automatically giving, we're so grateful for you for doing that. We say this as we bless our gifts and sharing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.